Flight controllers frantically tried to communicate with the airplane. Nothing. What happened? How can you lose a jetliner? How can it vanish in thin air?
After years of unanswered questions, an underwater drone might finally solve the tragedy of Malaysian Flight MH370. For over a decade, this flight's disappearance has confounded the world, sparking endless theories and unanswered questions. Now, a striking breakthrough brings back hope. Why is the media so worried about exposing the truth after such a groundbreaking discovery? Tune in to reveal why the authorities don't want you to know what really happened to the most elusive aviation tragedy in history. The lost decade of the ghost plane. Let's explore this latest development and unravel the story that has captured global attention. It began on a chilly early morning on March 8, 2014, at precisely 12:41 a.m. A large aircraft, Malaysian Airlines Flight 370, was ready on the tarmac at Kuala Lumpur International Airport, set to head to Beijing Capital International Airport. The flight was planned to be a quick one, just over 6 hours. As this diverse group of people took to the skies, little did they know the legacy their flight would leave behind. The disappearance of their plane would spark global interest and scrutiny, turning their ordinary into a subject of international focus. The plane's unexpected vanishing would lead to years of probing and theorizing by experts and novices alike, each trying to piece together the puzzle of what happened that fateful day. As the large aircraft accelerated down runway 32R and ascended into the night sky, it set off across the vast South China Sea. After reaching a cruising height of 35,000 feet, the crew communicated with Kuala Lumpur Air Traffic Control to confirm that everything was proceeding smoothly. However, as the plane neared the border of Vietnamese airspace, events began to unfold oddly. Malaysian air traffic controllers sent out a routine farewell message, much like a final goodnight before turning off the lights at home. Captain Zahari replied with a "Good night, Malaysian 370, which is typical for pilots when they transition between air traffic control regions. Yet what followed this normal exchange was anything but usual. Just as the plane entered Vietnamese airspace, it disappeared from radar visibility. The aircraft's transponder, essential for transmitting important details like the plane's identity to those monitoring from the ground, stopped working unexpectedly. This malfunction rendered the aircraft invisible to radar, leaving ground controllers without any way to see or understand its position or condition. Suddenly, it was as if the airplane had slipped into a void, leaving everyone concerned and confused. Even more perplexing, there was no emergency signal from the aircraft. There were no reports of bad weather or technical difficulties that might typically explain such a disappearance. Then, around 1:30 a.m., the situation took a strange turn. Both military and civilian radar operators in Malaysia detected the airplane again, but it wasn't where it was supposed to be. In an unexpected move, the plane had turned back toward the Malay Peninsula. This return was followed by another odd maneuver. The plane didn't just head back, but also changed direction again, this time flying northwest across the wide Strait of Malacca. The rationale behind these unexpected movements was unclear, raising numerous questions. Was it a technical issue, a deliberate change of course, or something else driving these actions? Amidst this confusion, another pilot tried to establish communication with Flight 370. He used a special emergency channel under instructions from Vietnamese air traffic controllers to reach the missing plane. The attempt resulted in a connection, but the communication was garbled, filled with static and muffled sounds, adding to the uncertainty of the situation. The early hours, usually a peaceful time, a startling development occurred. At exactly 2:22 a.m., the Malaysian military completely lost track of the airplane. This final disappearance, without any clear explanation or logic, left everyone searching for answers and contemplating a wide range of possibilities. What had started as a typical flight had turned into a puzzling ordeal, with the plane's sudden changes in direction and intermittent appearances suggesting a complicated and unresolved scenario. Over the Andaman Sea at 5:25 a.m., something went wrong. The radar suddenly stopped working, signaling a potential problem. By 2:40 a.m., things had taken a turn for the worse. Air traffic controllers, who keep track of planes, had to deliver troubling news to Malaysia Airlines. Flight 370 was no longer visible on radar. The airline, alarmed by this development, started a large-scale search operation, reaching out to anyone who might help find the plane, including other air traffic controllers and nearby aircraft. As dawn approached at 5:30 a.m., the search efforts became even more desperate. The focus was on two areas, the South China Sea and the Gulf of Thailand, the last known locations of the plane. Everyone involved was fully committed to the search, hoping to find any sign of where the plane might have gone. The disappearance of Flight 370 sparked a global search and surprising eyewitness reports. The flames of confusion. The disappearance of Flight 370 quickly captured the attention of the world. A variety of eyewitnesses began to come forward. Fishermen, oil rig workers, and even residents from places like the Kuda Huadu Atoll and the Maldives reported seeing a plane that looked like Flight 370. One fisherman near Kota Baru specifically noted the plane flying unusually low, which was considered highly unusual and worrisome. On March 19, 2014, over 1,800 miles southeast of a place known as Wong, an oil rig worker experienced a shocking sight. He saw what appeared to be flames in the sky. This alarming vision prompted Vietnamese authorities to start a search and rescue operation, hoping to discover the source of these flames. Meanwhile, fishermen from Indonesia added to the growing concern with their own startling claim. They saw a plane crash into the sea near the Malacca Straits. 3 months after the plane vanished, the occurrences continued to unfold. A British woman sailing the Indian Ocean reported seeing an airplane on fire, adding her account to the already long list of unusual sightings. These various reports made the situation increasingly complex, as each new account seemed to deepen the confusion surrounding what had happened to Flight 370. Each of these stories added pieces to a puzzle that seemed to grow more intricate with time. The multitude of personal accounts and official searches painted a picture of an extensive and determined effort to unravel the fate of the missing aircraft. Yet, with each passing day, the uncertainty seemed to only expand, drawing more observers and theorists to ponder the possible reasons behind the plane's disappearance. This led to a vast array of theories and speculations, each trying to make sense of the scant evidence and the cryptic nature of the plane's vanishing. While the stories differed, they all depicted an unusual and tragic event. People couldn't help but question how effective the search efforts were, which seemed more driven by false hope than any practical expectation of discovering what really happened. What exactly happened on that ill-fated flight? The search continued with enthusiasm, yet true insights were scarce, marking the incident as one of the most baffling chapters in aviation history. The search initially focused on the South China Sea, which was believed to be the plane's last known location. However, in a surprising twist, new information revealed that Flight 370 had veered significantly off its intended path, heading west instead. This unexpected turn of events redirected the entire investigation, broadening the search to include areas like the Strait of Malacca and the deep waters of the Andaman Sea, sparking a complex web of theories and speculation. As the investigation deepened, it started to feel like a convoluted detective story with intermittent signals to a satellite offering vague hints rather than clear answers. These signals, more like cryptic whispers from above, suggested the aircraft remained in the air long after disappearing from radar screens. The revelation that the plane had continued flying unseen for about 6 hours without a trace led to widespread surprise and a flurry of speculative explanations. March 15th was a significant day, exactly 1 week after the plane vanished, when Inmarsat provided crucial data. Although they couldn't pinpoint the exact location, their information suggested 2 possible final scenarios for Flight 370. It might have taken a southern route ending in the remote Indian Ocean, southwest of Australia, or it could have taken a northern path stretching up to Turkmenistan. This data forced a drastic change in the search strategy, moving attention from previously examined areas to these new, expansive routes. The idea of the northern route, which would involve the aircraft flying undetected over several countries, was intriguing but highly unlikely. The idea that a Boeing 777 could pass through heavily monitored airspace without detection seemed more like a plot from a spy novel than reality. The military radar capabilities across these regions made it nearly impossible for such an event to occur unnoticed. Consequently, this theory was quickly dismissed, complicating the puzzle even further and significantly expanding the search area. The investigation then focused on the vast and desolate stretches of the Indian Ocean and a broad area covering parts of Southeast Asia, Western China, and the Indian subcontinent. This expansion of the search area only added layers to an already complex puzzle, making the task of finding the aircraft even more challenging. The vastness and desolation of the area surrounding the disappearance of Flight 370 practically scream the bleak possibility. There was simply no way for the plane to make a safe landing. Thus, it seems the sea below was the grim recipient of the ill-fated aircraft, swallowing it whole, along with the 239 souls aboard. This episode etched itself as a notably grim chapter in aviation history, marking a catastrophic low for the Boeing 777 model. Sadly, the notoriety of this incident as the worst in its class was short-lived, as just 131 days later, another Malaysia Airlines Boeing 777-200ER Flight 17 met a tragic end, shot down and claiming 298 lives, thus usurping the dire distinction from Flight 370. Strange sightings kept coming in, adding to the confusion. The elusive hunt for answers. The relentless search that followed, dubbed as history's most expensive aviation recovery mission, only magnifies the situation's absurdity. The search teams were essentially groping in the dark, miles from civilization, chasing faint pings in the vast ocean that they hoped were from the plane's black box. On April 6, 2014, a piece of this puzzle seemed to fall into place when a distant Australian ship detected what they believed were signals from the black box, far out at sea. Despite the alignment of these signals with satellite data provided by Inmarsat, skepticism hung heavily in the air. The reality that the black box's battery might soon expire added a layer of urgency to an already desperate situation. A robotic submarine was deployed, tasked with scouring the ocean floor, a Sisyphean effort given the vast and undefined search radius. After exhaustive searching, the hope that these signals might lead to the plane was increasingly dismissed as a cruel trick of acoustic shadows or mechanical errors from the submarine itself. The search continued, driven by a mixture of hope and obstinacy, until June 2015, yet no tangible evidence of the plane surfaced. Then, in a twist akin to a taunt, a fragment of the plane's right wing, known as a flaperon, was discovered on the shores of Reunion Island on July 29, 2015, curiously, about 2,300 miles west of the primary search zone. This discovery, while significant, was a mere drop in the ocean of uncertainty and unanswered questions. Over the next 18 months, more presumed pieces of the plane began washing up on the coasts of Tanzania, Mozambique, South Africa, Madagascar, and Mauritius, each a somber reminder of the unresolved tragedy and scattered debris, both of the aircraft and of the truth, strewn across a seemingly indifferent ocean. Out of all the pieces gathered from different places, 26 seemed like they could have come from the missing plane. Specifically, 3 were definitely from Flight 370, while 17 more were very likely from it. Interestingly, 2 of these pieces were from inside the plane. This hinted that the plane must have broken apart at some point. However, it remained unclear whether this happened while the plane was still in the air or when it hit the water. A closer look at parts of the wing, one found on Reunion Island and another in Tanzania, provided clues about the plane's last moments. It appeared the plane did not land softly on the water under someone's control. Rather, some experts believed that Flight 370 might have crashed into the water very hard in a steep, fast dive. In January 2017, the countries involved in the search, Malaysia, Australia, and China, decided they had to stop looking. But then, a company from the United States named Ocean Infinity got the green light from Malaysia to continue the search. This new search effort went on until May 2018, when the Malaysian Transport Ministry announced that even this additional effort had to end. In July 2018, Malaysian officials released a new report. This report was significant because it suggested the plane didn't just disappear due to a random failure. Instead, it hinted that someone might have intentionally taken control of the plane and changed its direction. This idea made the whole situation even more complex and raised more questions about what really happened. Despite a lot of effort and many clues, the team of experts could not figure out exactly why Flight 370 vanished without trace. Many people started guessing different things that might have happened. One frightening thought was that someone might have hijacked the plane. This wasn't just a wild idea. There were some facts to back it up. For instance, it turned out that 2 passengers had boarded the plane using stolen passports. These passports had been taken from an Austrian and an Italian reported missing in Thailand in the last 2 years. Interpol confirmed that these passports were on their list of stolen travel documents. This was a big red flag because it showed a huge security problem. No one had checked these passports against the lost and stolen list when the theft was reported. This issue became even more concerning when Ahmad Zahid Hamidi, the official responsible for Malaysia's internal security, criticized the lax border controls. He was frustrated that the airport staff let the 2 passengers with the stolen passports get on the plane. These passengers had one-way tickets bought through China Southern Airlines, which made the situation seem even more suspicious. A phone call from Bangkok led to a simple question. A man from Iran wanted the cheapest tickets to Europe, paying with cash. This small request revealed more when it was discovered that 2 young Iranian men, aged 19 and 29, had entered Malaysia legally at the end of February using their real Iranian passports. People began to wonder if these men were just looking for a safer place to live. The massive search brought more twists and turns. Vanished without a trace over the Indian Ocean. The head of Interpol suggested that their actions might not be related to terrorism, especially after the sudden disappearance of Flight 370. This led to detailed investigations by American and Malaysian teams into everyone on the flight, while Chinese authorities closely examined their citizens on board. All teams concluded that none of the passengers had links to violent activities or terrorism, contradicting the wild theories that followed the plane's disappearance. The story took a brief turn when attention shifted to a flight engineer from Kazakhstan working for a Swiss company that leased jets. His extensive knowledge of aircraft made some people suspect he might have been involved in the disappearance. At the same time, a wild theory emerged, suggesting Russian spies had hijacked the plane to crash it in a remote part of Kazakhstan as a distraction from political unrest in Crimea. This theory, sounding like something from a spy film, lacked any real proof. A small but significant detail emerged that caught widespread attention. The cell phones of those on board were reportedly still ringing, giving their families a painful sliver of hope. However, experts in telecommunications explained that the ringing didn't mean the calls were connecting. It was just the network searching for the phones without success. While this explanation made sense technically, it did little to ease the pain of the families who were desperate for any sign of their loved ones. Despite the pervasive use of digital communication, no one from the plane sent messages, made calls, or posted online after the aircraft unexpectedly changed its route. The complete lack of communication from the plane was deeply unsettling in a world where people are usually constantly connected. The aircraft's unexpected diversion across Thailand's landscape and its subsequent disappearance without any more information left a deep and unsettling silence. This silence and lack of information continued to fuel speculation and left many unanswered questions about the fate of the missing plane and its passengers. The eerie silence after Flight 370 vanished continues to stir widespread curiosity and concern. In an era where people are always connected, it's particularly strange that no one from the flight reached out. Given that many passengers were from Malaysia and China, countries where mobile phone usage is common, especially for those traveling abroad, the absence of any calls or messages is puzzling. Why didn't anyone on the plane make a call or send a text? Were the passengers unable to use their phones, or were they prevented from doing so? One possibility is that the plane was flying too high, which might have blocked their phone signals. Maybe the passengers tried to reach out, but their messages couldn't go through. These technical issues, while they help us understand possible scenarios, don't give us a clear picture of what really happened during the flight. As more time passes without answers, the situation around Flight 370 becomes even more baffling. The aircraft showed very unusual movements, climbing to an extremely high altitude of 45,000 feet, then suddenly dropping to 23,000 feet and later rising again. These erratic changes could have made it impossible for any phone to connect to cellular networks on the ground. Investigators are also trying to figure out why the airplane dramatically veered off its planned path. US experts have suggested that someone might have intentionally steered it towards the Indian Ocean. To explore this further, Malaysian authorities have been digging into the personal and financial backgrounds of the flight's crew members. They searched the homes of the pilots and checked the bank and credit card details of all crew members to see if there was any unusual activity. All this intense investigation and the lack of clear answers keep everyone guessing. The unusual flight path and failure to communicate have led to many theories about what might have occurred, but without the plane, these remain unconfirmed. The lack of solid facts means that every new piece of information can lead to different interpretations, making the disappearance of Flight 370 an ongoing and unresolved issue. The continuous speculation and the unresolved status of the flight create a cloud of uncertainty that seems to grow heavier with time. As the search continues and theories multiply, the need for concrete answers becomes more pressing, keeping the attention and concern alive. Let's explore the stories and possible reasons behind the individuals on Flight 370, paying close attention to the crew's personal lives and the unusual happenings during the last hours of the flight. After the plane went missing, extensive investigations began, with Malaysia's leading police officer stating that they had talked to over 170 people, including the pilots and crew members' families. The focus was on Captain Zahari Ahmed Shah, driven by suspicions that the disappearance might have been intentionally caused by someone on board. Attention turned to the crew and their personal stories, love and loss at 30,000 feet. Whispers about Captain Zahari suggested he could have planned a tragic end for the flight by crashing the plane on purpose. This theory includes him possibly locking the co-pilot out of the cockpit, cutting off communication with the outside world, tampering with the cabin's air supply, and setting the plane to fly automatically until it ran out of fuel. When investigators looked into his personal life, They found him to be a married father of 3 who lived in a quiet area and owned 2 houses. A significant discovery was made about his activities at home. He often used a flight simulator. This simulator had saved a flight path that strikingly resembled the actual route of Flight 370, heading toward the Southern Ocean and ending at a deserted island. Although this route was deleted, experts managed to recover it, which raised further questions about his state of mind and intentions, especially as he was dealing with personal issues like separating from his wife and the stress of a family member, Anwar Ibrahim, being sentenced to prison right before the flight. Despite these suspicions, Zahari's wife and friends defended him, emphasizing his dedication to his family and job, which they believed would prevent him from causing harm to others. The investigation then turned to the co-pilot, Fariq Abdul Hamid, after a surprising piece of information came to light. He had attempted to make a phone call from the cockpit as the aircraft flew unusually low over Malaysia's coast. This call connected briefly to a telecommunications tower in Penang State but was abruptly cut off, likely because the plane quickly moved out of the tower's range. The details of this call, including the intended recipient and the purpose, remained undisclosed, fueling a lot of speculation. Amid this uncertainty, some theorized that Fariq, possibly dealing with personal issues, might have taken control of the plane, turned off its systems, and isolated himself in the cockpit. This theory suggests a dire scenario where both the crew and passengers were unable to access the cockpit at a crucial moment. The lack of solid proof and ongoing silence from the authorities only deepened the atmosphere of doubt and suspicion, adding a layer of sadness to the already complex and somber story of Flight 370. The speculations about Fariq's personal life, particularly regarding his romantic relationships, hinted that he might have been overwhelmed by personal challenges and saw this extreme act as a way to escape his troubles. These theories, while speculative, cast a dark shadow over the stories surrounding Flight 370, suggesting a situation where everyone on board was left powerless, unable to intervene in what could have been a critical moment. The continuous absence of clear answers and the ongoing silence from those in charge only enhanced the cloud of uncertainty, embedding a deeper layer of sorrow into the missing flight. The haunting nature of these unresolved events leaves a lasting impact, reminding us of the lingering questions and the trail of elusive clues left behind in such baffling situations. The idea that Fariq was pushed to the edge of despair is very dramatic and pulls at the heartstrings. Yet, this portrayal needs to be critically evaluated because other aspects of his life suggest a different picture. Fariq wasn't just any pilot, he was a man deeply in love, on the brink of starting a major new phase in his life. He was engaged to Captain Nadira Ramli, a 26-year-old pilot from another airline. Their relationship was more than just companionship. It was a deep source of happiness and emotional support for him. Nadira wasn't just a fiancée, she was a partner who shared his dreams and hopes. The joy they found in each other's company challenges the gloomy theories that paint Fariq's last days in dark colors. These theories overlook the real cheerfulness and forward-looking attitude he showed in his personal life. The thought of marrying Nadira painted a future filled with happiness and shared fit with the idea of a man planning to end everything abruptly. Moreover, Fariq's bond with flying went beyond just a job. It was his passion, something he loved deeply and dedicated himself to wholeheartedly. This passion was recognized and admired by his colleagues. It showed that he saw flying as more than just a career. It was a calling he embraced with all his heart. His commitment to being a pilot highlights a person who valued his role and was proud of what he did. This strong commitment in both his personal and professional life provides a powerful argument against the idea that he was in such despair that he would consider taking drastic and tragic actions. The contrast between his vibrant future plans and the grim theory some have suggested poses a significant challenge. It asks us to reconsider the complexities of human emotions and decisions, especially under extraordinary circumstances. While the narrative of despair is filled with emotion and drama, it seems too simplistic when compared to the evidence of a life full of promise and dedication. Accepting such a tragic conclusion too quickly does not do justice to the complexities and layers of Farouk's life. It suggests a need for a more careful and thorough examination of his actions and the events leading up to them. Taking this careful approach respects the complexities of human behavior and helps prevent jumping to conclusions based on a partial view of his life. This more detailed examination not only respects the depths of individual experiences, but also helps in understanding the real motivations and circumstances behind his actions. What truly drove Farouk to his end? Share your thoughts below, and if you found this analysis intriguing, please like, comment, and subscribe for more deep dives.